Hello, good morning, good evening, good welcomes, whatever part of the world you're in right now. We are saying hello to you live wherever you are. Stop what you're doing. Come and spend the next 45 juicy, awesome minutes with us as we delve into the world of this great man that you see before you, who I haven't known for very long. But my goodness, his presence just emanates straight through the screen. Gary, welcome to today's show.
Oh, Sammy, wow, what an introduction. Can I take you everywhere I go?
You can. I'll just sit in your pocket.
Wow, that was brilliant.
As long as it's not as hot as it is today. It is really, like, for those of you watching the show, are you melting as much as we are in the UK? I'm not complaining, but there is a little bit of melting stuff going on. I said to Gary, I think during the show I might turn into this drop.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Gary,
few water scorchers, they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely not complaining. Gary, I'm so delighted to have you on the show. You have skills that we have not had on the show yet. So I cannot wait to dig in to your success strategies. Negotiation is a big part of business, and it's something that a lot of business owners I know, well, they need some help with this. And so let's see if we can dig in to this. But before we do, Gary, just tell us a little bit about you. Now, for those of you that have read Gary's bio in the description with this video, you can go back and read it again. But in your own words, Gary, what would you say, what is it you love so much about what you do?
It's what I've always known, Sammy. I've been in sales a long time now, longer than I care to remember, to be honest. From selling batteries on a high street through to negotiating with major UK multiples. So it's all I've known, really. And my passion is to help people negotiate better, more profitably, help them not make the mistakes that I made, which we've all made along the course of our business careers. So it's just a passion and real interest that I have. So yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I'm just putting a little banner out there now. For those of you watching this now, how are you with your negotiation skills? Because let's see if we can support you with that during today's show. Gary, when you go in, because you work with all kinds of clients, all kinds of different shapes and sizes of organizations and entrepreneurs with blue chip companies, what would you say is the biggest mistake so many people that you come across? Like, it's almost like 100% thing that every single meeting you go into, they're doing this thing wrong when they're negotiating.
Can I give you two things? Is that okay?
Oh, well, yes. I feel like we're in abundance of them now. Give them to us.
one and then a bonus one. The first one would be lack of preparation. I see that so many times. I see so many people negotiate just from their point of view. They go in and they only consider it from what I want to get out of the deal. They don't consider where are the points of interest of the other party, because that's where the negotiation, the agreement really takes place, between what I want and what you want. And what I see people fall down is never give due preparation or planning to thinking about getting inside the head of the other party. That's the first one. And the second one is when they're in the negotiation, what they do is speak too much. So they will make a proposal, as they say in the industry, i.e. make you an offer. And then they don't go. They keep talking. And in talking, they talk themselves out of that proposal that they've just made.
I am so playing back some movies in my mind from my early days when I first started, and there's one in particular that I still cringe about now. It's coming to mind as you're saying that, but the thing is, especially if you're going into something and you're a new business like I was at the time, I didn't have the kind of skills that I have now, and I didn't know what I know now. And so, for those of you that are I suppose, it's my friend Wendy over in Atlanta. She says, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, act accordingly.
Yes. Particularly, it's different from selling. Selling is around enthusing, creating interest. It's around features, advantages, benefits. It's asking great questions. Whereas negotiation is I use the phrase negotiation is silence.
Yeah.
Negotiation done well, if you're observing it done well, it's not the most riveting watch, and that's good. That's a good thing. It's about me making a proposal, you weighing it, considering it, evaluating its benefits and pros and cons, and then sending me a counter proposal back. And me weighing it up and considering it and thinking about it. It's a little bit like a tennis match. I serve over the net, you get yourself positioned to return the serve, and you return the serve. I then have to react to what you've sent over the net. So it's an analogy I use quite often in terms of negotiation. Is very much like that. It's backwards and forwards with creative proposals. When I make a proposal and send it over the net, I need to be quiet and give you time to retrieve the ball. In other words, to consider the package that I've put your way in terms of the proposal that I've put your way. Does that make sense as an analogy?
Totally. Yeah, completely. And what would you say is, I think us Brits especially are quite reserved where it comes to, I don't want to push them, or, it's almost like they go one way or the other. Don't want to push, and so they don't push at all, or ask or follow up. And then you've got other people that are just like, like a little kind of Jack Russell wanting to do that. How many of you experienced a salesperson like that? It doesn't feel good, does it, when it's like that? But sometimes they need to keep, just chipping in. I have people that I say, can you come back in a couple of weeks? Or I might not even see their email for a week. And then all of a sudden I'll have a catch up and then I go back to them. And, the amount of times that there's been something that I've almost missed because they didn't follow up and say, hey, this is running out. Or did you know, it's so important. What would you say is like the most efficient follow up to a negotiation? So we don't do too much and we don't not do enough.
Restate what you've agreed, restate what your understanding of the agreement is, because how often do we do that? We go away thinking we've reached a deal, and then we don't recontract it out. We don't email it out, or we don't, do a sort of formal contract. And 2 weeks later, my interpretation of what we agreed is different to what the other party's interpretation is what we agreed, and we go back to square one again. So my underpinning advice there is confirm what you've agreed, confirm your understanding of the agreement you've reached. I do see often negotiations go back to square one just through that fundamental, misunderstanding, essentially.
Yeah, and quite a lot of the time we don't follow up fast enough, which is where things get forgotten then, isn't it? And
we all have busy lives.
There's a verbal agreement, not a written one.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we all have busy lives. We all have other agreements to make, other sales to make. So it's important that that you do follow up and you do reconfirm and recontract with the other party, and then do what you say you'll do. Again, it's a pretty basic
promises.
Exactly. Again, it's a pretty basic thing, but it's do what you say you'll do. Be consistent and be reliable and be credible. So
it's all the things that a brand is, right?
Yes, precisely.
Well, good one anyway. I suddenly thought about that over there. Not all brands are like that. If only they were. If they were in that universe, they would be. Gary, I want to come back to your bio because obviously you've got quite a dramatic history going on, and we had a great chat, and you told me
I'm
about
not that old, Sammy. I'm not historical.
I feel like you achieve so much in a week. It's just like I get exhausted with what you do. You say, I mean, not only have you been in business for 14 years, but and experienced all the highs and lows that every business owner goes through, because it's not always plain sailing. You've traveled the world, you've delivered market leading programs to all kinds of things. You've got health issues that are holding you back. Just take us through some of those things, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that look at other people and think, oh, they're all right. It's all right for them and they have no idea what's going on behind the face of that business. Help us through some of those things that you've been going through behind all of this fantastic negotiation stuff. It's not been as plain sailing for you behind the business, has it?
If only it had been plain sailing. Let's wind the clock back, I suppose. 12 years ago, I set my business up. 2006, so 14 years ago. Let's get it right, 14 years ago. And I suppose I made the mistake we all make in terms of trying to please everyone and ending up pleasing no one. I was very much a generalist at the time. Negotiation and sales were my heartland. I just, either I was in denial or I felt that by niching down too soon, I would be turning business away as opposed to attracting it. So I made that fatal mistake. I have a company, my business is Paradigm Training Limited, and my first website was the Royal We, Sammy. We've all been there. We deliver world-leading programs.
We all over everybody.
We work with everyone, and the we was little old me. So for 5 years, I was having this facade a little bit of being the Royal We, trying to appeal to everyone. Yeah, delivering the odd program here and there, bit of leadership, bit of coaching, bit of negotiation, bit of everything really. But in the end, being probably not fulfilled myself, becoming a bit of a jobbing trainer and facilitator as opposed to a strategic one that was in charge of his own destiny. But it paid the bills, but not very well, but it brought some income in. So the light bulb moment for me was when I sort of sat down and thought, what's my unique selling proposition, my USP? And fundamentally, it's me and my background. It's my authenticity. It's my point of difference. And as soon as that resonated with me, the pot went on above my head. It all went to garygorman.co.uk, which is my website to this day. Yeah. And it all went
into your personal brand. By the way, guys and girls, we'd love to know in the comments, what's your USP? What's your website? This is a perfect opportunity for you to let everybody know who you are and what you do, and for us to get to know you better as well. Yeah. So there you are. You've created your personal brand. Then what?
Created my personal brand, which again enabled me to focus. It enabled me to be the point of difference. It enabled me to be in demand, because there are other trainers out there, but if they want me, they've got easier access to me. I'm not appearing to be anything I'm not. So what that happened was I attracted clients and I distanced clients. And distancing clients is no bad thing because I don't want to work with them if they don't want me. It has to be a mutual relationship. So again, that was a bit of made a real impact upon me. So everything was going okay. I wind the clock back a bit. When I went down the Paradigm Training before Gary Gorman came out, so to speak, the real nail in the coffin was when I had 20 quid in the business bank account.
Oh, ouch.
So no money coming in, loads of I'd signed up to various telephone answering services and various bits and bobs that all added up to quite a reasonable amount of money leaking out of the business. So I've still got the bank statement. I've still got 20 quid. It's in a frame, and I've got 20 quid in the bank for my business. Wow. At that point, it was, am I going to make this work, or am I going to go back and get a proper job? Because I was ex-corporate, was I going to go back and get a corporate job?
Just to step in at that point. So did you feel like you weren't really building it like a business at that point? Did you? Yeah. Because some people feel like, and in fact, Bob Doyle, when I interviewed him, felt like that he was kind of playing at it. He'd been doing well, but he'd got complacent. He's like, I'm not treating this like a real business. Is that the kind of thing that went through your mind?
Yeah. When I've got 20 quid in the bank, it's a hobby. It's not a business. It's a hobby, an expensive one at that.
Right. Yes.
So that was the real business trough, I suppose. I'm really pleased I went through that because I learned so much in terms of what not to do. And so the first 5 years weren't wasted. They weren't profitable, but they weren't wasted because they shaped what happened in the following 9 years.
Yeah.
To bring us up to date. So everything was coming back on stream. Gary Gorman was doing okay. I had my own website, with my name and everything. So started to develop my own branding and point of difference. And then I had a health scare, and I still struggle with diabetes to this day. But 6 years ago, men being men, I brushed off an illness. And men being men don't go to GPs, do they? Or certainly did in those days. And I was just feeling a bit under the weather. I just felt really run down, really tired, really irritable with my my loved ones. There are other biological impacts of diabetes that I perhaps don't need to go into. But put it this way, I was up a lot in the night. Put it that way. Yeah, and drinking a lot as well. So lost weight, but wasn't really trying to. But I lost a stone very dramatically, and I knew something was wrong. Finally went to the GP, and I was it's an impact on blood sugars. My blood sugars were so high, I was hours away from a diabetic coma without really knowing it.
Wow.
So the GP rushed me straight to hospital. The GP said, right, you can't go home. You've got to go straight to hospital now. I wasn't in an ambulance. It wasn't that bad. I got driven there. But nevertheless, I was literally within half an hour of being in the GP surgery. I was in the local hospital, put on an insulin drip. And over the 48 hours after that, slowly but surely became myself again, with being propped up by severe amounts of insulin.
So what is that down to, though? I mean, I know that
I was in a bad place.
We don't look after ourselves enough, do we? As entrepreneurs, we put all the focus on the client. Speaking very much from experience, it's like, you jump out of bed and you're already serving. You forget that you need to look after yourself, and so as a result of lifestyle that I was making bad choices. Essentially, yeah, I was making bad choices. I was 3 stone heavier than I am now, so I know I'm not exactly sylph-like now, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. Right.
So yeah, it was bad choices. So it was the jolt I needed to make better choices. I still slip. We all do. I still. If the weather's cold, I eat. If the weather's warm, I drink. So I still make bad decisions on an odd occasion, but I'm making more consistently better decisions now.
Yeah.
So what happened then? I started to manage it, and I was really pleased with myself because I was put on insulin injections straight away by the hospital. So for 3 years, I was managing diabetes with insulin injections. And struggling with it, really working with it, but struggling. And I found a very kindly, my GP, the local GP, is a diabetic specialist, and he was brilliant. He was a great advocate of, well, why don't you try? He was never sure I was a type 1 diabetic, in other words, insulin reliant. He always thought there was perhaps a chance that I might be a type 2, which is slightly different. And he said, I want to experiment with you if you're happy to. I want you to work with me, and I want to see if we can come off insulin, because it is an inconvenience. I had to take all the trappings with me out to restaurants and jabs.
Right. Well, I mean, before 3 months ago, you were probably then traveling and going to business meetings.
Exactly.
And doing things as well. It's not easy, is it?
So
everything around you.
Yeah, so I ran a networking group, and I do remember it was an 8:30 start, and it was around breakfast. You had a breakfast as part of the networking group.
Right.
And even though I was group leader, I always had to nip into another room. Are you okay?
Yes, sir. I've just got something in my eye. I think a fly flew in there. Sorry. It wasn't kind of a conversation. The fly is obviously like, I've got to be in on this. I don't want to be a fly on the wall. I want to hear this in person.
There's no flies on me, Sammy.
Any more fly jokes? Come on, girls and boys.
Where was I? Yeah, so I was running this breakfast networking meeting, and it includes the name. It involved a breakfast, but because diabetics have to take their insulin before they eat, so I was trying to run a group and introduce everyone. Welcome along to networking. My name's Gary Gorman, etc. And I'm also thinking, at what point do I inject myself? So it was a real pain, literally pain, metaphorically and literally a pain. So I worked with the doctor, cut a long story short, came off insulin, and I managed it on a minimum dose of tablet. My long-term aim is to come off the tablets and be a sort of a non-diabetic. Apparently, there's a number of cases where people have reversed the symptoms, and I want to be one of those. That's my next goal. In the meantime, manage it through diet, better choices, and tablets. So all that came along when the business was actually going well, was actually on an upward trajectory.
Yeah,
certainly a lot better than £20 in the bank. It was doing a lot better than that. So it was another hurdle we all have to overcome, Sammy, don't we? All these obstacles in the way, but it's how you respond to them is the real litmus test.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to a question of, having that underlying condition which you're on a mission to totally reverse. And I know people who have reversed it, so it is possible. Being on that mission and having your business, I think a lot of business owners struggle with balance. And I know, as a business coach yourself, what is your advice to people that are, maybe they don't have a health condition, or they don't know they've got one, or they're on their way to one. And until it actually becomes something they're faced with, as you did, making bad decisions, choices that could have been different, then you end up with this diagnosis, and you start then looking back and go, oh God, I could have changed this. What can we be doing to avoid getting into that consultant's room with the same challenges that you're having? Like, what do you do now that creates the balance that keeps you stable and out of the hospital?
Make better choices, take more exercise, mentally switch off. I think the issue we have as business owners is that, and I work from home, so I'm in my office, but it's in my home as well. Is I was a devil in the startup of my business for working every hour we were sent, and now I discipline myself to have certain hours, and there'll be certain days where I'll start early. This morning I started early because it was going to be warm, going to be a hot day. As soon as we finished, I'll be finished for the weekend. That's it. Other days I might well start a bit later and work later in the evening. So I think it's making better choices, being a bit more self-disciplined, being braver with ourselves. I wasn't brave. I was running away from obvious symptoms. I didn't want to see the GP. I brushed it off as what I thought was a brave, masculine thing to do. It's a fever, I'll get over it. Whereas now I would say, advice to other business owners, be brave, talk it through with your loved ones, talk it through with your doctor. There are services out there, both physical and mental services. And I came to realize that the biggest asset in my business was my health. Without my health, I don't have a business.
Yeah.
And I was taking that bit for granted initially. So I think that's the real fundamental thing, is without your health, you won't survive, and your business won't survive.
No, very true. And we hear health experts saying this to us all the time. So it's it's refreshing coming from somebody. You're not a health expert. You're an amazing business coach, mentor, and trainer who supports many businesses of all shapes and sizes, and entrepreneurs to really brush up on those negotiation skills, but also really build their business. It's not just about the negotiation side of things. All right, you've got that sale. What next, right? What do you do? How do you keep growing it? So, there's a lot of businesses that need your help right now, and balance is one of the most important things, certainly for you and for other people who are listening to this or watching this show. Gary, as you've got, what are some of the mistakes that you've personally made where it's come to negotiation? What can we learn from you?
Spoken too much. Remember I said about silence?
Yeah, about the two at the beginning.
Certainly in the infancy, I spoke too much. I used to work for a company called Wilkinson Sword, the shaving company, many years ago. But they were a key market player in the razors and blades industry. And I was mid-20s then. I was one of the youngest account managers to manage the Tesco account. For those obviously listening throughout the world, Tesco certainly was at the time, and indeed still is, the number one, like Walmart, the number one grocer in the UK, and very, very skilled negotiators. I was a mid-20s young whippersnapper, keen as mustard.
I love that word. Where did they even come from?
Young whippersnapper. I still use it, even though I'm no longer a whippersnapper.
Well, you are compared to somebody else. We all are.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. So I was, I made some mistakes with Tesco. Were very experienced, very trained, and that's the key thing. I was a talented salesperson and got promoted rapidly, but I wasn't a negotiator. I didn't even know the difference at that stage. I was all of a sudden plonked in this major account, go on and agree new distribution points, promotions, and new listings and things, and they had me on a plate, really. Looking back, they were so experienced. They were very quiet. They were very stern in how they negotiated. They got lots out of me that, with hindsight, I would not have given them. So I think that the main thing is be trained, get trained. You know, there are lots and lots of negotiation trainers out, really good ones out there. So find one that you like, find one that you gel with, and get trained. The investment that you make will come back 7, 8, 10 times in terms of the money that you then subsequently save in your next negotiations. So yeah, I made that was a major mistake. Lack of preparation as well. I probably didn't know what I needed to prepare, Sammy. I'd prepare my case, I prepare my price, I prepare my features, advantage, benefits, but I gave no real credibility or thought to what they might ask of me, what they might want of me, what questions I might ask of them to uncover what they want and find out what's on their agenda. All those naive kind of things, I did. Yeah, I did. I confess I did.
I'm sure we can learn from those things. Now, Gary, I'm going to do something that's a bit of a surprise for both of us. So I'm going to take hang on. This has been on my shelf, so it's got a bit of a place marker in there. Okay, so let's give it a bit of a wiggle. I'm going to do a little roulette in the law of brand attraction.
Right.
So I'm going to do a little thing. I'm going to go past that bit there, and I'm going to land on this page. Let's see what's on this page. Oh, we've landed on Martin Ramsden. That's actually right at the beginning of the chapter. He says, mind the gap, how to stand clear of the noise. So, Martin, how do you mind the gap? How do you stay clear of the noise when there's so many things you could be doing? There's so many things you could say yes to. What's your strategy for saying no? How do you negotiate that?
Is that for me? You said Martin, Sammy. Do you mean me?
I'm talking to Martin in the book, Gary.
Right. I was going to say, yeah.
It's because I'm reading his name in the thing.
Yeah. Sorry, just repeat that again for me.
Yeah,
Sorry, you kind of lost me when you said Martin.
Martin says, mind the gap, how to stand clear of the noise. So, Gary, how do you stand clear of the noise when there's so many things you can say yes to? There's so much, there's loads of things online. There's stuff offline. There's so many things we could be doing. How do you negotiate the no? How do you say no to stuff? What's your theme, your strategy behind it?
What do I say no to? I say no to if I don't generally think I can add value. I'm not one that I have high standards and ask high standards of myself. And what I mean by that is I do get offered, come and deliver this program for us. And it would be easy, let's be honest, to take the money and run, to take the paycheck and walk away into the sunset. Thank you very much. But I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. I want to be referred by others. And I want them to speak positively when I'm not in the room. Because that's the key referral tactic that I follow. Speak positively when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I turn work down. I negotiate the no if I don't think that will be the result for me and the client. In other words, I won't make a measurable difference to the client, and it will hamper and tarnish my reputation than enhance it. So that's when I say no, despite the price sometimes, despite the money you're turning down. I think the legacy and the reputation that I have within my business is more important than pounds, shillings, and pence.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you say that. We've been doing that in the Brand Builders Club all week. We've had Andrew Priestley as our mentor and expert in brand builders every morning this week, and he did a masterclass on Wednesday. which is all about the building your business with integrity and what to say yes to, who to say no to. And that's just incredibly important part of what we're not taught, isn't it? We're taught to say yes and then figure it out. We don't get trained on how to say no.
Yes, exactly. So it's that, and it's a brave decision, isn't it? It's exactly. It's making that, turning things down is a brave decision. But and in the early days, I said, as I confessed, I didn't do that. I took whatever was going, but my value inside was, as every pound came in the bank account, the pound in my heart was being eroded and being tarnished.
Yeah, I hear you. How many of you watching this or listening to this now have felt that way? I know that I definitely have, and it's not an easy route to follow. And the thing is, as a person of service, we've been talking about this during the sprint this week in Brand Builders. As a person of service, I know that you are somebody, because we wouldn't be in each other's universe if you watching this or listening to this right now, if you weren't a person like this. I guarantee that you care about the service and the brand that you deliver so much that you will go out of your way to make sure that even if there is an unhappy customer, you will do whatever you can to make sure that they are really happy and that they've got exactly what you promised them. The challenge with that, if you're attracting what we've been calling this week D customers instead of A customers, is, as Gary said, you end up you're burned out, frustrated. There's more month left than money because you've been focusing all your attention on those people they'll just absorb all that attention because they're not the right person for your business. Then if you've got the right people in your business and you're filled with those people, you're going to be abundant in every single way. And I tend to find that the higher you go in terms of the quality of client, the less they mess about with the small stuff. They just want to focus on doing the right things in the right way, and you don't get all the little tiny questions that sometimes are asked by other people who will just ask you them because they're freaking lazy. Gary, how many times do you go to Google and Google something for somebody, and then you give them the answer and they go, brilliant, thank you, and you just went to Google just like they could have bloody gone to Google.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny about what you're saying about client attraction. I'm as I've got more experience, 14 years in now, intuition is my great indicator.
Right.
I can tell very quickly whether we're going to gel as a client, as in a sort of client relationship, whether it's going to work or not. It's not often let me down. I won't say it's never let me down, but often it doesn't. The vast majority of times it doesn't. And I think so. I go a lot on gut feel, and I go a lot on, do I want to work with this person? I think as I've become more authentic, to use the glib word, myself, I've recognized, I can get on with you. I think we're going to be okay. And it's funny how when business owners we can get paralyzed by analysis and overanalyze things, where sometimes it's, does it feel right? Does it fit? Does it feel right? Yeah,
totally. If only we learn these questions as like some kind of chip that they can put, in your brain when you first start a business, that goes almost like the Matrix, when he goes and he downloads everything. Maybe we need those Google glasses or something where it just downloads on us. All these business challenges that we face. I do believe that there are definitely things we need to go through in business to learn some of those things the hard way, because unless you've learned them, you just keep making the same mistakes. But then I think there are things that we can do that will definitely speed the process up. What is, you've told us a lot already. Is there, a confession? This is a confession show. Is there something that you don't talk about very often that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners about something that you've been through in your business that if you could have navigated it a different way, you'd have done it differently?
I would have certainly specialized earlier, but we've touched upon that. Is there anything else that yes, there is. Just things like be organized. I'm not great organization. If you saw my desk now, you wouldn't be that impressed. I mean, thankfully, there's myself and my wife in the business. There's only two of us. So she's got used to it after 30 odd years of marriage. She's used to me. But yeah, I'd probably wish I was turned the clock back a bit more organized in terms of email management, things like that. I've now got a VA who's been really helpful because that's her area of expertise. And again, a lesson I learned with my business is do what you do best and outsource everything else. So the organization of my books and my receipts, my VAT and all the administrative tasks are outsourced, and it leaves me to concentrate on what I do best, which is, make a difference and get people negotiating more effectively. So yeah, I suppose that would be a confession in terms of I tried to do, when the infancy of my business, I felt I was a bit more protective of it, and I thought I could do it, first of all. And secondly, I didn't have the money to employ someone else to do it. So I made mistakes and I got in a real bit of a mess in terms of the admin things. So yeah, that would be a thing that I'd confess to. My kind of dirty secret.
your sneaky secret. Do you know, like I can't work if I haven't got organization. I don't know what it is. I just. Especially working from home as we are now. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, but if there are, because like I'm sat here and, we live on a 61-foot boat, 61 foot by 12 foot. So it's, a big Dutch barge.
Doesn't everyone live on a barge like that?
All the people I know around me do. But, I'm sat here and I'm looking at the living room. I can see the kitchen. I can see the wheelhouse from here. If there's any kind of mess whatsoever, like that's in my eyesight. Marie Diamond from The Secret, Feng Shui master. We've done a lot of stuff with Marie, and she's spoken at a lot of our events. In fact, she was one of the co-authors in the Law of Brand Attraction as well. And I remember going through one of her sprints that she delivered to our Brand Builders Club members quite early on. Actually, it was probably about 3 years ago she did that for them. And one of the things was, what's in your eye line as you're working and you're creating this successful empire or whatever it is that you're building. But what is it that's in your conscious mind? She said, because we had a porch on the front of our house before we moved onto the boat. And she said, what's in your porch? What's the first thing that you go through when you go through your front door? What's the first thing you see? Is it calm? Is it peace? Or is it a load of coats, a load of shoes? And I was like, oh dear. Kids, grandkids, that kind of stuff, it all piles up. So when we moved on the boat, it was like, right, we're just not taking any of that stuff with us. It's got to be clean. But I just can't work. I just seem to I have to be organized. And I don't think it's a natural thing for me. I've had to really force myself to be that way.
Yes, and me as well. I don't think it has hampered me, but I could be more efficient, even more efficient, to be a bit more organized. Yes.
We've got to get organized in being organized.
Yeah, I think so. There must be a market there. Yeah.
There definitely is a market. That's why we exist. It's so close to us, isn't it? We can't do for ourselves what we go and do for others. You go and organise their businesses, and yet it's plumber with leaking tap, isn't it? Half the time. Yeah. So Gary, just as we start to wrap up with the interview today, is there something that you've got coming up? Like what's happening for you? What's in Gary's world? We would just come through COVID-19. Everybody was very worried about that at first, and I think people that have not got resources got resourceful with it. Maybe you're one of those people. Like, how did you pivot through that particular time? There's never been a point in history where we've all had the same problem globally. Everybody had the same problem at the same time. What did you do to pivot, or did everything just carry on as normal for you? Did you have to change things?
Well, there was a period of blind panic for 3 or 4 days. And then it was a realization of this is only going to happen. There's going to only be a 3-month hiatus. We'll all be okay by June and July time. I think we all thought of that. Just a short-term blip. And then a couple of weeks later, it was obvious that it wasn't going to be a short-term blip. It was going to be a longer-term blip. So at that point, I then, got my backside in gear, I suppose, and start to think, well, there is going to be demand for online learning. So I've pivoted in terms of all my classroom negotiation courses are now online. Been running them several times now. Got better at them as well. I think we all do. I had a bit of a fear of like a self-limiting belief, thinking that it's a bit too technical for me, and will it have the same dynamic? Because my personality is quite enthusiastic. Hope that's coming across. I'm quite an enthusiast, but my training style is very much facilitation and very much interactive and getting them to do things. I'm very much a proponent of learning by doing. So what was put me off was, how do I translate learning by doing into online activity? However, having now faced my fear and done it anyway, to use Susan Jeffers' example, I love it. It's fantastic. It's great. And what it's opened up for me in my business is the future potential to do it online. That I don't necessarily have to be face-to-face. Right. There are real benefits to doing it online now. And I think it will become part of a blended program where some clients, in fact, they're already saying to me, that that program that we've got booked in for sort of September, October, if things don't change, do it all online. If they do change, do 3/4 of it face to face and do another one online anyway, just because we can. So that's been a real thing for me. It's given me a great chance to get organised, to get a bit more organised. It's all marginal gains. All marginal gains. Yeah. I've launched the podcast, so I'm working with a pal of Michael Jeshunt, and we run the bizbanter.biz podcast. So that was launched last week. 2 episodes are now available on bizbanter.biz.
Awesome. Let's get that up here. So it's bizbanter.biz. So has that got a triple W in front of it?
Yeah, I guess so. But sometimes you can now bypass that, can't you? But yeah, there you go. That's the one.
Is that spelt correctly?
That is spelled correctly.
For those of you that are listening in, it is bizbanter.biz.
And
we've got a couple of episodes on there. So what we're going to find when we go there already? What have you covered?
When you go there, you'll find light at the end of the tunnel was our first topic in terms of looking at lockdown and the changes and pivoting and things like that. Mm-hmm. And the second one is the importance of having daily routines. So the clues
getting organised, do I hear? Is that getting organised?
I didn't say it was best practice. It's warts and all.
Right.
But it's very much it is very much around, it's business but with banter. It's very much we say it's like pub chat. With at the moment without the beer or the pub, but it's that sort of thing. So it's business talk without the fluff. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We have a topic. It's unscripted. We're literally a little bit like this, like we're bantering live now. We have no script whatsoever. Have a look it up. It's about 30 minutes, so they're easily digestible. Car journey, tube journey, whatever, underground subway journey. Please do let us know. Have a look and give us some comment. We're happy to get feedback from readers and then change the topic and things like that. So
and we've got your website here as well. So garygorman.co.uk. So Gary, is that the best way for people to contact you and to find your online courses and things like that?
It is. Everything's on there. Loads of blog posts on there around negotiation. There's a free report they can download, how to stop your team negotiating money away. So hopefully that's a valuable resource.
I'm sure there's a few things that internally people can learn from that as well, let alone the team. For those of you that are solopreneurs, you can still learn a thing or two from that.
So that's available as a download. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. Do a lot of activity on LinkedIn. A lot of articles and blog posts are posted on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, Gary Gorman. Yeah, that's me.
Barry, fabulous. GaryGorman.co.uk is the domain. Gary, thank you so much for being with us today. This was previously scheduled a few weeks ago, and so I've been chomping at the bit to get you on the show and to bring a little sprinkle of your magic to all of our viewers and listeners. So thank you for taking the time to come back.
Thank you for asking me. No problem. Great to be here.
Very, very welcome. Guys and girls, it is the weekend. Yes. Where's June gone, by the way? What happened to June? It just went Gone. We're almost in July already. So, wow. Next week, we're hitting July. Have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the fabulous weather. I'm praying that you have great weather. I pray that we have great weather too. And if you haven't got your copy of The Law of Brand Attraction yet, please go to thelawofbrandattraction.com and get your book. There's some brilliant strategies in there. In fact, there's 24 different strategies in there from just amazing entrepreneurs just like you. This isn't experts that are trying to teach you how to grow a business and do all these amazing things. This is real life expertise from people who have really learned the hard way about what's working in their business right now that can help you and support you to go further faster. So have an amazing weekend. Gary, thank you once again.
And you, Sammy.
Next week, same time, same place. So we will see you then. Look out for the broadcasts in the group and you'll see when we're going live. And I look forward to maybe putting your bottom, you watching, yes, you right there. Maybe your butt could be on this seat. So reach out to me. I want to be able to spotlight you and really shine the light on the good work that you're doing in the world. Take care. Have an amazing weekend. And I will see you next week. Mwah. Bye.
Thanks, Sammy.